The ANC military wing MK was assisted by Angola's MPLA to fight the then apartheid government in South Africa. At that time, South Africa supported the late former opposition leader Jonas Savimbi, who was engaged in a civil war in that country. Let's discuss the role of the MPLA in the liberation of what was known as the frontline states. We are now joined by ANC International Relations Subcommittee Chair Lindiwe Zulu. Thank you so much for your time this evening. Let's then begin our conversation with, you're one of those of the people who was in exile. Let's share then, in fact, with the viewers tonight, the support the ANC received in Angola.
Thank you very much, Bonnie, and your viewers. Thank you for giving us the opportunity, because while we are mourning the death of the former president, Eduardo dos Santos, we also recall, it's an opportune moment for us to recall the support that we received from Angola, and the support that we received in ensuring that we fight from a military point of view. We fight the apartheid regime, but also it gives us an opportunity to recall the fact that the apartheid regime, as you clearly indicated, was extended in fighting us through UNITA and UNITA rebels. This is a story that, for me, has still yet to be told, because we lost quite a lot of our comrades on the way when we were attacked by UNITA rebels, who had been like an extension of the apartheid regime to deal with us while we were there. Their slogan was, "Kill them before they get to South Africa to kill us."
And the Angolans suffered immensely, as they sheltered and supported the liberation organization. For example, you look at the Cuito Carnavale battle, where the MPLA soldiers led during the battle. Let's talk about that very briefly.
Yes, before we even talk about Cuito Carnavale, which was a determining platform in as far as the liberation of Namibia was concerned, we talk also about the fact that there are many villagers who we lived next to within the camps who were killed by UNITA rebels, number one. Number two, villagers who suffered because they had to support us and assist us in everything that we were doing. And that's why I'm saying that it's yet a story that needs to be told, because there's a lot of Angolans who died for our liberation. And I'm sure that as you read the statement of the African National Congress, we referred to the suffering of the Angolan people. And by the way, it was not only for the ANC, it was also for the ANC, ZAPU, as well as SWAPO, because if we recall in history, the liberation of Namibia had to be discussed, and as the African National Congress and Umkhonto we Sizwe in particular, one of the conditions was that we withdraw from Angola. Hence, we left Angola and went to places like Tanzania and Uganda. And throughout that period, it is the support of MPLA and the support of José Eduardo dos Santos in leadership that played a very important role, and his relationship with the leadership of the African National Congress, but as well as the leadership of Umkhonto we Sizwe at the time.
And while we talk about President Dos Santos's legacy, others are looking at, one part, and, especially coming at the back of what you're talking about, but others are saying, he should be criticized for plundering the resources of his country, even some going as far as saying that he plundered them so much so that he even had to go and be treated in Barcelona and not in his own country, and saying that there's nothing to celebrate there. What is your reaction to that?
Well, when you have a nation that does not see a reason to celebrate liberation, when you have a nation that does not recognize the support that we got for the liberation, it calls for us to have a deep conversation about our liberation struggle and where we are today. But it further also calls for a deeper discussion with regard to leadership itself, because in hindsight, there's a lot of things that can be said. But right now, as the African National Congress, we are saluting somebody when the chips were down, when everything was difficult for us, was there politically, socially, and militarily, because it is a history that will still be told about how we lived in Angola and how we supported not only by Santos and MPLA, we were also supported by other countries who at the time were supporting us in order for us to get rid of an apartheid colonial system. That task was completed. If we then have to discuss about what happened post that liberation, that's a different discussion altogether that I don't think any one of us would fear even getting into conversation, because history is not meant for only the past. History is meant in order to assist us towards the future, to say, fine, you liberated the country. What then happened in building institutions of governance? What then happened during that time, and what did leadership do during that time? And if leadership at some point did not do something that is felt like by others that it shouldn't have happened, that is what we need to put on the table and have a different conversation altogether. Right now, the person who supported our liberation struggle, who not only supported the liberation struggle for South Africa, supported the liberation struggle against Ian Smith in Zimbabwe, supported the liberation struggle in Mozambique against the very same Portuguese that had been occupying Angola. Right now, this is what we are looking at, and we send our condolences, obviously, to the family and the people of Angola.
And before we end off this conversation, earlier on in the bulletin, we were showing the viewers visuals of Sri Lanka. This has also led to a culmination of a hashtag, for example, that is now trending, which is union buildings. People are restless, they're upset, and they say that maybe it is time to, go to the union buildings. They're upset about the rising cost of living, the energy crisis, and all of that, and they say that government is not taking them seriously. You are part of the governing party. How is the ANC responding to this restlessness?
Absolutely. I can say if people are unhappy, the whole world, by the way, is unhappy with the rising food crisis and all. Everyone is happy with the rate of unemployment and all. And I can say, as a member of the African National Congress and as a member of cabinet, we take our people very seriously. That is why, for instance, under the period of COVID-19, we had to sit and look at how else do we change the situation and support our people across the board, whether it was business, whether it was in the social sector, whether it was the petrol itself that actually rose, and we had to sit down and say, how do we address it? Even now, we shall do exactly the same. We are committed to ensuring that we discuss and we engage and we always find solutions to our problem. We are a united nation that needs us all to put our heads together to say, how do we deal with the global challenges that are facing the entire world? How do we as South Africans come together and make sure that even the mistakes that are being made, how do we correct them to make sure that our country is not seen in a negative light, not only by ourselves and our people, but the world in general?
You mentioned COVID-19. We saw the president giving regular updates about how the country was responding to this crisis, yet his voice is missing when it comes to addressing the country about this, energy crisis. When is he going to address the nation?
Definitely the president will be coming out, because in order for the president to address the nation, even with regard to COVID-19, we had special meetings at NCCC and Net Joints and all, where we needed to sit down and plan properly so that we communicate to the people something that people can believe in and something that we are also going to be able to do. Watch the space. The president is going to be making the same family meeting that he had before. He will be doing that because he has already long directed us, all of us, to say, come back to me and tell me what exactly needs to be done to deal with the crisis that the country is facing.
So you're basically saying then, finally, that those who are restless must hold off a little bit. The president will be addressing the nation soon, because we are seeing quite a lot of, restless sentiment on the ground.
We appreciate and understand why there is restlessness, because the economy hasn't been doing very well. People are suffering because petrol prices have gone up, food prices have gone up. We are very conscious of that. And I'm saying to you, the president will be coming out and addressing the nation as we have done so, because we believe We learned a lot through COVID-19. The fact that we had those communications and the fact that we had a family meeting which resonated very well with our people, the same will have to continue, because we need to reassure our people that we do everything we can to ensure that we lighten the difficult life that they are having.
And how important then is it going to be for also those who are deployed into these various portfolios to speak in one voice? Because we've also seen a pulling in different directions between, for example, the Mineral Resources Department as well as the Energy Department. How important is it going to be for the ANC deployees to be able to speak in one voice so we can see this problem resolved?
It has always been very important for us to be seen to be speaking on one voice, because that's exactly the reason why we have a government and we have cabinet, where the president calls us. We have cabinet meetings where we have those discussions about different issues. And one of the issues that has already been dealt with is messages that are conflicting. You are not going to hear nor see any conflicting messages here on, especially after the President Cyril Ramaphosa, has directed us not to do that, because it is not in the interest of South Africans. It is not even in the interest of government. It is not in the interest of the African National Congress at all.
All right, so we appreciate your time this evening. Thank you so much for talking to us. That was Lindiwe Zulu, Social Development Minister, as well as Chair of the ANC's International Relations Subcommittee.